So let's start. So at the beginning, let me just show you the packages I'm installing. So I'm installing the commercial RPMs, and the version is 5.7.17. So I'm installing the default ones for MySQL. I do install a dependency NUMA control that I need for MySQL, and I'm installing router as well. So all those packages are going to be installed. This machine is vanilla; it has nothing on it. It has Apache and WordPress, but it has nothing on it. So this is how quickly you install, those packages, MySQL, full MySQL cloud, full MySQL server, and router. Let it finish. Okay, and it's done. And now I'm just adding the local host name to the hosts, so we'll have DNS resolve. We have to have it. It's going to be pointed to localhost, otherwise things doesn't work well. Now I'm creating the data locations, the data tiers for MySQL, so it will be data S1, S2, and S3. Now we're creating the configuration file for the first server. In the configuration, we set up the default directories for MySQL. We set the port, and please make note that this is going to be 3316 instead of 06. We're going to set settings for replication. We are using replication and GDITs for group replication, so this is built on top of it. And the part that is dealing with the group replication itself, we have instructions. We have the name of the group. You can set whatever you want in this format. We are not starting by default when we start a server, just because I want to start it dynamically. The group replication channel local address and ports, it will be different between the three machines. Okay, so you see different ports for each machine. We are not bootstrapping, and bootstrapping is something that you do just once when you build the system. So by default, we don't want to build, and we don't use single primary mode. We use multi-master. We'll do the same on the three machines. So we're now going to build a configuration file for server 2 and for server 3. And you can see the differences. The port is different. It's 3336 instead of 16. And the port for the group replication and the server ID is 3. So 3 different servers, very similar configuration, just a bit different. I'm just making sure that the permissions are all belongs to MySQL. Now I'm running MySQL server with configuration of S1. So server 1 is running. And let's connect and have a look. I've connected to the server on 3316. Which is the first server, and let's run the commands we need to set it up. So the first command is I'm disabling the log bin because the commands I'm running now, I don't want them to be replicated. I'm creating the user for replication. It's RPL user, just a name I'm using. You can use whatever you want. I'm granting a replication permissions to this user. And it has a password. I'm flashing the privileges to reread the permission. And now I'm allowing log binary. I want everything to be logged from now on. And I'm changing the master with the user and password I just created. And the channel for replication will be called group replication recovery. Good. Till now, there is nothing set up yet. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm installing the plugin for group replication. And I'm doing it just once. All the things I'm doing now is just once. Now I'm bootstrapping the group. For the first time you're running the group, you have to bootstrap it. You don't do it ever again. If you do it, you'll break replication. I'm starting the replication. It builds all the structure. And now I can disable the bootstrapping so it won't do it again. And you never, ever do bootstrap again, ever. Okay, now we can monitor our current, oh, that's a bit, yep, too big. Let's not, still too big. Let's make it smaller. Yep. Now you can see the table, and you can see that we have one member, and this is its port, and it's online in a group replication. So we have one server up and running. Okay, I think it's time to run the second server. So, yep, okay. Now we're running the second server. As you can see, it's using a different directory and different configuration file. So now we have two servers are running, and we're connecting to 3326, which is the second server. I'm running the same commands, everything that I showed you before. I'm installing the group replication plugin. This is the second server, so we have to install it once. I'm starting. Have a look. I haven't started Bootstrap. You never ever do Bootstrap again. I'm starting group replication and have a look. Now monitoring, we can see that we have two machines up. So they are now talking between themselves. They are fully recovered and they are ready to go. Okay, let's try the third server. So now we're running third server, right? Let's connect to the third server and run the same commands, everything the same, creating the user, installing the plugin, and start the group replication and monitor. And we have now 3 members. So we have now our group replication up and running on those machines, all ready to go. That's cool. Okay, next thing, we are going to configure my MySQL router. So we're setting up the init file for group replication, for router, sorry. And here are the settings that we set. So we leave everything in place where it was, and we're adding a routing rule. So this is just a name. I'm calling it round robin. You can call it whatever you want. We are binding to address on the server to 3306, which is normally where MySQL is. And we are saying that the destination, when someone is trying to connect to 3306, it will connect to the local host to 331.6.1.2.6 and 3.6, to these 3 servers. And the mode is read-only. Now I know the name is weird, but read-only means round robin. Read-write means one specific server. So naming is not good, but that's how it is. So it's just round robin. And we started the MySQL router. As you can see, it's very quick. And now just let's make sure that it works. So we're trying to connect to 3306, which is the router. And we check the port. We see that every time we run it, we get a different port. 16, 26, 36, round robin. And it just goes again, and then it again goes to 1 and 2 and 3. So it does round robin, exactly what we wanted. So the fact it's read-only doesn't mean anything. Okay, so let's connect to 3306 to the router. And we went to one of the servers. We don't know which one, we don't really care which one. So we're creating the WordPress database, and we're creating a user for WordPress. That's all cool. And now we're installing WordPress. Yeah, okay, we're setting up the WordPress database, WordPress username. There is no password, not secure, don't do it at home. And we connect to a specific, and I'm connecting specifically to 1.6 because I want to create all on one server just to make sure there are no conflicts. I'll show you conflicts later and why I'm using specific server. And I'm just installing WordPress, a regular install for WordPress. Yeah. And we are done. Cool. So we have WordPress installed, and we hopefully have it replicate across the different databases. Okay, I'm just changing the theme because I've got a hack theme that if I'm adding in here the parameter C, it will create new comments and new posts every time we refresh. So we can actually show some load, and not just reads, but writes as well, which is what we are trying to show, that, we are just creating new posts. Okay, now we connect to the router, and we enable the general log on the server that we are connecting to. Now we're going to run it 3 times, so it will go to 36, 16, and 26. So general log is now enabled on all of them. I just ran through the router and it went. Okay, now I'm going to open a different layout for our console. And the reason I'm doing it is on the bottom I'm going to show you activity. So that will show you activity in those 3 bottom consoles. You will see the general log for the different machines, S1, S2, and S3. So each one represents different server and different activity. And we'll then run some stress test that basically goes to WordPress through the router And this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to change the port from 3316 for WordPress because it knows it goes to 16, which is one server. I'm going to tell it go to, I'm just changing to 3306. So go through the router. I'm telling WordPress, go to the router, and the router will redirect you. And we did that. And now we can run the stress test. So this one goes, it opens 5 concurrent connections to the local host on WordPress. And as you can see, as soon as we're doing this, we will have activity on all servers. So those 3 different servers reading and writing at the same time, and WordPress is happy to replicate. So we have activity, cool, on different servers. Right, that was nice, and but not that impressive. So let's see what happens when you have what we talked about, disaster. So I'm locating where the second server is running, the processes, and I'm going to kill them. They're just dead. They're going to be dead. Okay, gone. Bang, they're gone. As you can see, there are no processes in S2. As you can see, at the bottom is not running. The middle one is not running. So we have a disaster. But WordPress is up and running, right? No problem. Let's have a look at the monitor, and we can see that we have only 2 members now, not 3. Okay, because one was gone. There was a Chrome decision, and they decided they are the majority, so they stayed up. And now we can recover. So I'm just copying the configuration file, so I won't have to do it again. And I'm going to destroy all the data for S2. So S2 is gone. Now we're starting up a brand new server, empty, nothing in it. We initialize the data there for S2, right? So it's empty. We're copying just the configuration file, so just the same configuration we had before. And now just making permissions. And now I'm going to start it up and see what happens. So you start up the server. So S2 is now up and running, and it has nothing in it, right? It's not part of the group replication yet. So we have to connect to it and instruct it to go back and be part of the group replication. We're going to create all the users and stuff that we need to use. So we enable the group, the general log just to see activity, and then creating the user, changing the master, installing the plugin because this server is brand new, right? Installing the plugin and start replication. And now have a look what happens. Okay, so now we're starting to see some activity happening in the middle one. And if we look at the monitoring, okay, yeah, a bit of time. This is all running on one laptop. So we now see that the second server is now recovering. So it is while there isn't still activity. So WordPress does not know anything about the fact that we have a problem, and we are still recovering. Now I will use some editing for demos, so I will run this much quicker than it's in reality, and we will see that after recovery time it's back online. And now it's back online, and WordPress is now using the second server as well. It was all done automatically. I didn't have to do anything. So WordPress is happy. That's cool. So that was recovery from disaster. Now let me show you what we're doing with conflicts. So conflict means that we have two rows at the same time are updating from 2 different places. And group replication, the way it works is by checking where the transaction was committed first, and this is the one that takes precedence. So we have 2 servers, 1 and 2, on different sides, and we're going to try here. We're setting the auto commit to 0 because we want the decision about transactions are made when you are actually committing. And that's where it goes to all the servers, and all the servers decide, do I commit or not? So we're creating a table. The table is very simple. It has an ID, which is a primary key, and a name. That's it. It's a very simple table that we're creating, and it's automatically replicate to both sides. So we insert into the text the name start to begin, and we have 1 row with ID 1 and the name start. Cool. Let's have a look the other side. Okay, we do have the database and we don't have the table yet. Why? Because it wasn't committed, right? Cool. So let's commit, right? And now we have it in here. So it's automatically replicate upon commit. So when we commit, the whole servers are doing their thing. Now let's start a transaction and update on this server, server 1. Let's update the name 1 for this row. Okay, so row 1 will have, instead of start, we'll have 1 as a name. And at the same time, let's start a transaction on the other server and update. Yeah, right. Of course, this. Let's update the name 2 to the same row 1, right? So the same row, instead of being 1, we're gonna set it to name 2, right? It accepted it, no problem, because there was no commit. And now we will commit on this side, and it was accepted. What happens when we try to commit in here? We get an error, right? Because we cannot change. The transaction started at the same time. Now we have actually the first server, the second server was the one who won. We'll do the same thing. We'll start another transaction. So the first one who commits is the one to win, and the other one will get an error. So your application needs to know how to deal with transaction errors, right? Okay, so we change this into 1-1 now, and the other one we're starting a transaction. So the first one, not the one who started the transaction, is the one that was committing first. So we have now 1-1 on one side, and we have 2-2 on the other side, and we update on 2, so it was changed locally on both, and now we commit on the first server, no problem at all, it was committed, and we'll try to commit on the other one, and we'll have an error again because it was the second one. The first one won. So they all said, or one server said, no, I can't accept it, and they all decided to roll back, and the 1-1, the first one, was winning.